Shalom, this is Daniel Stern, January 12th, coming at you from our offices in downtown Jerusalem in Netivyah. Once again, if you're in the area, feel free to drop on by, preferably with advance warning, but if not, we probably won't turn you away, probably. In any case, today we're going to talk about the hostage situation. I really wanted to talk about some legal matters, but someone here at the office really wanted me to talk about the hostage situation, so that's what you're going to get today, and legal matters will wait until the end of the week. And when I say legal matters, I'm talking about Netanyahu and why the left-wing liberals control the legal system and the effects of that in Israel and maybe a bit around the world, and lawfare and so on. Of course, I've talked about all of that before, but I wanted to focus on it. All right. In any case, there is, as always, a rumor mill about hostage negotiations and hostage deals. And as January 20th comes closer, then that rumor mill gets a bit more active because Donald Trump will be taking his office, and he has said that if there isn't a deal, they'll be held to pay, and so on and so forth. So, the most important thing for the Hamas is, beyond, of course, not dying, is having Israel's army not be in the Gaza Strip and not be on the border with Egypt. That is obviously so they can continue ruling and rearm themselves and kill and decay any Palestinians who don't like them, as they've been doing for decades, and smuggle in billions in contraband from Egypt, which, on a related note, is a huge industry in Egypt. Egypt also wants that. Egypt wants Israel to not be on the border between the Gaza Strip and Egypt, so they can continue smuggling billions into the Gaza Strip. Obviously, there's also security concerns, not just arms, but also terrorists and hostages being smuggled out, and so on and so forth. So that's the most important thing for them, that in any hostage negotiation, the Israeli army is no longer in Gaza, and they can claim that the war is over and we will not go back into Gaza. The most important thing for Israel is, if you're on the left side of the map, the most important thing is getting the hostages back. Well, that is after doing everything possible to make Bibi Netanyahu no longer prime minister, but that's a separate issue. If you're on the right side, it's defeating the Hamas and making sure that October 7th never happens again. Now, obviously, the right side also wants to get the hostages back, and the left side, most of them, also want to defeat Hamas and make sure October 7th doesn't happen again, but their priorities are different. On the left, getting the hostages back is the number one priority, and they don't care if the Hamas remains in power, rebuilds itself, and does on October 7th again, because that's a hypothetical future that they don't have to deal with at the moment. The names of the people that would be killed by another October 7th don't yet exist, whereas the names of the hostages are known. So it's much easier for them to say, we need to get the hostages back, these are their names, these are their families, and not think about the hundreds and the thousands that will inevitably die if such a negotiation deal goes through and the Hamas remains in power and hundreds and or thousands of Palestinian terrorists are released from prison and augment the power of the Hamas, and of course the smuggling continues and the rearming continues. So they don't have to think about that right now because it's in a hypothetical yet guaranteed future and they can just focus on the hostages. On the right, the most important thing is rationally to destroy Hamas's ability to wage war against Israel. And yes, we all want the hostages freed. We all want them returned. Each and every Jew and Israeli wants the hostages returned. Just some people prioritize not having another 2,000 people slaughtered and another year and a half of war above that. You can let me know in your comments what you think. If one should negotiate with terrorists and give them all their demands and ignore the fact that hundreds and thousands will die as a result of those demands in order to get 50 people back and 50 corpses back, or if you think we should get back 50 people and 50 corpses knowing that it will cause the deaths of hundreds and thousands, as we've seen every other prisoner swap in the past, including the Gilad Shalit prisoner swap that returned over 1,000 Palestinian prisoners, including Yihya Sinwar, and that hundreds, not including October 7th, hundreds died as a result of getting Gilad Shalit back. I'm glad he's back. The cost was not worth it. Sorry to say it, might be controversial. The cost, the hundreds that died as a result of getting one soldier back, is not worth it, despite the fact that Israel and the Jewish people put a very high emphasis on the value of life and the value of each and every one of us. Some costs are too high to pay. But going on, all of this was a kind of side note going into the whole philosophy behind negotiation with terrorists, or not negotiating, but moving on. So there's a rumor mill. There was an Arab report that there is a three-stage deal on the table, that in the first stage the army will stay in certain parts of the Philadelphia corridor, the border between Gaza and Egypt, and then in the second stage they will only have some observation points, and in the third stage they will completely withdraw. And of course there's also in that's the biggest obstacle. The rest they would withdraw earlier from the Netzarim corridor and other places. As in regards to the hostages that would be released, there's talk about releasing about 30 hostages. Israel insisted on live ones, but Hamas, while claiming that it will give live ones, we know that's a lie, because on their list of 30 live ones, they included 2 that were dead, that we retrieved their bodies last week. We, through use of the army, were able to retrieve the bodies of 2 Bedouins, a father and son, who were killed and whose bodies were taken to Gaza, and who were on Hamas's list of live hostages that would be returned. So we know they're liars, and there's really, all this is negotiating in bad faith. And there's no reason to continue except, and here's the deal, here's the issue that's bringing us to the point, this video today, Donald Trump is coming in. And Israel does not want to anger Mr. Trump, because as we know, he is a very interesting character who is moved by very astute business mind, but also with many emotions. And it's the kind of person that you don't want to piss off. So Israel has to, at least for a while, give the impression that it is not opposed to deals, and that have it be clear that the Hamas, that has always been opposed to any deal, which is true of the Palestinian people as a whole, as we often say, they never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity when it comes to the previous attempts at peace, where they were offered 97% of what they wanted, or 99% of what they wanted, or whatever, and they never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity. They refused the deals. But anyways, going back to the current hostage negotiating, Israel, which will want Donald Trump's help regarding Iran and regarding peace with Saudi Arabia, do not want to piss him off at the moment. But to be fair, even though yesterday Prime Minister Netanyahu agreed to send the chief of the Mossad to Doha in Qatar for negotiations, and even though last week Donald Trump's envoy came here for a secret meeting, and Hochstein in Lebanon held talks, and so on and so forth. Hochstein is the U.S. Mediator for the Lebanese crisis, and he's the one who facilitated a terrible agreement between Israel and Lebanon about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, which gave them what Lebanon wanted for about 20 years and gave no concessions to Israel. And in theory, we were supposed to be happy because it would give us security and avoid war. Well, we all saw how well that worked out. But anyways, so we, Israel, need to continue this charade of, or farce of negotiating with a side that we know is negotiating in bad faith, that we know wants to kill us, that the negotiation itself is terrible for Israel, so that it becomes apparent to the rest of the world, especially Mr. Trump, that it is the Hamas that are stalling and not accepting the deal. Obviously, it might end up that there will be some kind of a deal because Israel will be in favor, and then Hamas will suddenly, out of the blue, be willing to do it, and it'll happen. And who knows what the future will hold. But as far as Israel is concerned, as far as I am concerned, and as you know, my political opinion is on the right side of the spectrum, this deal is bad. This deal is one that will leave the Hamas in power, allow them to rearm, augment their forces, and provide a victory for them in this war. I hope it doesn't happen. So, what I'd like you to think about today in your time with the Lord is about giving the Israeli leadership wisdom in order to do what is best for Israel and what is God's will for this land. And I'd like you to, as always, pray for the hostages who, despite what you just heard from me, I do wish they are returned, they do come back. I just don't feel that capitulating to a terrorist organization is the way to do it. I feel that it can be done in other ways. So pray that the hostages will be safe and released, and pray that the soldiers will be protected. Unfortunately, 4 soldiers died yesterday in the Gaza Strip. Pray for the families of the injured and the hostages. And as always, click like, thumbs up, subscribe, and more important than all, comment. Share your opinions. God bless you all. Shalom.